there, this is Terry with Collabo Creative, a service design company here in Indianapolis, and I'm coming back at you. It is another Wednesday, so we usually have 5 minutes for you, but today we got something special. We're gonna go longer than 5 minutes. I don't know how long, we shall see. But we have a special guest with us. I want to welcome Stephanie Adams. She is an experienced designer with Community Health Network, and she is going to be talking to us about how service design is impacting healthcare and what that looks like for community health. Welcome, Stephanie. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
We're super excited to have you. As you can tell, we have more than 5 minutes, so you don't have to speak fast.
Okay.
You can take your time.
All right.
And people will watch us if they like it.
Very good.
And hopefully they'll give us some thumbs up as well.
Yeah, all the thumbs up.
So, Stephanie, tell me a little bit about your role at Community Health and how service design is applying, or how you're applying service design to the system there.
Absolutely. So Community Health Network is made up of approximately 6 hospitals not all in Indianapolis. We have a hospital in Anderson, we have a hospital in Kokomo, and then we have 4 hospitals here in the Indianapolis area. Mm-hmm. And then we have about 200 outpatient facilities throughout the state of Indiana. And my role at Community Health Network is to begin a practice of design thinking, but also experience design. And that is going to shift how we approach our services and how we approach our view of patients on an everyday level. Meaning, so today, we're starting a practice. Mm-hmm. And so a big part of that is socializing what is design thinking. So there's a huge educational component of that. There's also a huge component of gaining buy-in at executive level.
Oh, yeah.
And helping communicate what this shift in thinking means. And the nice part is that community already loves their patients. Mm-hmm. And, they were founded, I think in the 1950s. Fact check me, the 1950s. And the idea was, they were like, look, in our areas, and on the east side of the city, especially, we don't have healthcare. We don't have an accessible healthcare facility. And so nurses and doctors hit the streets, did a grassroots effort, raised money. And so they created a hospital for the community, hence its name. And so there's already a heart for, okay, what do our patients want? What do they need? And this is just being explicit. So a part of this is adopting the idea of we're going to explicitly seek out patient ideas. Mm-hmm. We're going to explicitly integrate those ideas and feedback into how we curate our services.
That's fantastic.
It's a lot of work in the sense of execution. So we've got a long way to go, but we already have the infrastructure and the love of patients and the desire to be, I think, an industry best facility or network of facilities if possible. So that's exciting.
That's super exciting. And it's really great to hear that it already starts from the culture and the values with community health, because just the way that organization was founded, it's already based off of those patient-centered values, which is huge for driving design thinking and service design, right? Right. So awesome. So how are things coming along? What have you had any major projects that you've worked on that you've brought in, the community and are starting to explicitly gather their voices and their ideas?
So there's a couple of different efforts happening at the same time. We're collecting a few different councils that are made up of patients, and then also integrating some patients on different councils. So to have that voice in decision-making as a way to supplement that infrastructure of patient-centered feedback needs. We recently, it was almost an experiment, but we recently held a community event. We're creating multiple services, like in one building in a retail facility in Fishers. And we wanted to understand a few things around how the folks in that area thought, like their mental models around nomenclature for the building, for the services, and the approach we might take in helping them understand what was happening in that building. Because, with a retail and medical facility, it can be complex.
Oh, yeah.
And it's sort of new, at least from what I understand. So we held a community event. And so we had a series of posters along the street side on the side of the building that we're going to put all these services in. It's still under construction, but will open later this month. Some of them were patients because there's a clinic and a primary care clinic already in that building. Some of them were just passerby. Some folks from Gen Con were just there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, families, a lot of retirees that were just out and about. And they were able to interact and engage with our questions, but also us as employees. We also had some employees come downstairs and weigh in because from our standpoint at Community Health, caregiver experiences are just as important as patient experiences.
Oh, absolutely.
We call caregiver, there's the name, that's what we call our employees. Because no matter where you are in the system, inside of Community Health Network, you are a part of that patient experience. And that includes me. So I am a caregiver. Every nurse is a caregiver. And some folks give direct care and some folks give more systematic care, which would be myself. And they were able to weigh in. And it was just a really fun day, but it was also a way to get a quick, accessible snapshot of what they wanted for not only the future services, but for us to help us make decisions. So it was a way for us to give control back to the community instead of us saying, no, we know what you want. Them saying,
which happens way too often.
We were able to take into account, this is what they're trying to say. This is the need that they were trying to communicate. Which, there was a little translation in there, but this is what they were saying. Now that we know this, how do we change our viewpoint and make a different decision? Really effective approach, very quick. We finished it in one day. Analysis was really easy. We've received really high praise? We've received high praise from our
Better than low praise.
Better than low praise.
I would say so.
Yeah, and it was a novel approach that has not been done by the network to date. And it was something that was quick, easy, but also high impact as far as our decision making.
Right. That's awesome. I mean, I had heard this project, which is why I wanted you to come and be able to share with our audience, because I thought it was such an amazing way to bring in that collaborative and creative approach into, even though it's not reshaping healthcare, you're getting that input to understand the community and what is the impact of this building and what should it be called and what are your ideas? Come and tell us, right? Like,
exactly.
I love that. I mean, it's so community driven, which goes with the whole name of your healthcare network, which is amazing.
Well, that's the beginning of changing how we view and understand healthcare, is gaining that touch point of, okay, what do you think? This is your life. How's that going for you? And how can we do better? And then taking that into account in our decision making, because it's not just enough to know.
Right.
You have to then on the other side say, what does this mean for us as folks that genuinely want services to be better? Awesome.
That's fantastic. The work you're doing is phenomenal, and it is so important that it's being done. And it's so great to hear that it's happening at Community Health Network. We know that it's happening at other health networks across at least our state. And we just want to, help provide that support and platform for all of our healthcare worldwide eventually, right? To become much more patient-centered. So thank you for sharing that.
You're very welcome.
A lot of people who are, that we share these videos with, they are either operating in this world or, as a service designer, or might be in the healthcare industry and are trying to understand how to bring this in. So on that side, what are some challenges? Like what's the biggest challenge that you've come across in trying to bring more of a people-centered design thinking or service design approach to healthcare?
I think that's a really great question. And I think one of the biggest barriers, the one that I haven't had to encounter just yet, is the value of we need to make this shift as a culture. And that's one that, as experienced designers, we have zero control over, whether or not a company or organization actually wants an end user or consumer's input.
Right.
I think internally, one of the biggest barriers is a resistance to change. No surprise. No surprise.
Big organizations, it's different. There's a lot of people.
Big, small, medium. And a part of that is language. And I think I am consistently frustrated with how complex a lot of our terms inside of design are portrayed and written. And they're not really meant for your everyday person to absorb. And so I'm consistently trying to assure folks that I work with that are, you know, that are more than capable of understanding these concepts. Like, look, this seems confusing. It's not. Let me help, you know, defuzz this for you. And I think that's one of the things that, I'm working pretty hard around, is saying, okay, design, what is it? You know, and you know, in the end, you know, what an engineer does is incredibly complex. But at the end of the day, understanding what design is should not be.
Right.
And I think that we need to work a lot harder to stop making design seem like an elite club.
Oh, absolutely. We are right there with you. Right. I love that. I love that you bring it back to language, because it's something that's very simple. It's something that we use all the time, and we don't even realize how ingrained we are with our own language, and how, like, when I say design to you and you say design to me, we're probably saying the same thing. But when someone else hears it, they hear a lot of times
a lot of different things.
Yeah, a lot of times it's, well, creative or making drawings or
exactly
versus, no, we're creating a strategic plan.
And I know language sounds simple, but it's connected to, you know, the bigger picture of buy-in, of getting on the same page, of making sure we're all standardized across our network or even our practice. Like, if we are saying something, but we are not connected, we're not going to get the outcome that we want.
Absolutely.
And that's where it's just the beginning of those other things. You know, there's a lot of work that's helping us get there, because it's just like, let's work really hard to make all of this super complex. And I think it is complex, but I think there's also a way to make it accessible.
And it needs to be. Right?
It needs to be accessible.
Because everyone's a designer.
Everyone deserves to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. I have 2 big workshops coming up at the end of the month. Really exciting work to redesign 2 different kind of models in healthcare.
Ooh.
And what I'm telling all of my participants, and, you know, like, you have everything you need to come to the table. You already have it. You are the expert of your experiences. All you need to do is be comfortable and show up, please. You know, they already have it.
Right.
They have what they need. And I know we spend a lot of time trying to convince folks, you're creative. No, really. Just hang out with us. Sometimes I wonder if that fight is really where we want it to be.
As far as how far we still need to go?
Yeah. Yeah. And we spend a lot of time in the middle of a workshop convincing folks, you know, like, let it go. So, you know, I'm really excited about the work that's to come. We've only just started. We have a lot of visioning work coming up. We have a lot of opportunities to standardize across our network. As many I used to work for the VA, and you know, one VA, you've been to one VA. So it's not dissimilar from other hospital networks that have multiple locations across different regions. And so, you know, we have a lot of really enriching work, but the groundwork is already laid for us. Folks already want what's to come. And it's very exciting and edifying for me.
Oh, yeah. That's half the battle. That's the big part of the battle.
That's the big part of the battle.
Yeah. Well, I am excited to hear more about what's going to happen and what you're going to be, like your role and impact in bringing service design, design thinking, and a much more patient and people-centered approach to the designing of that system. Super excited for all the work you're doing. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're very welcome.
All of what you're doing, your project work, your insights into where we can start to address challenges. I think that's super important. We will definitely have to have you back on as you continue with your work and keep sharing out with our community what's going on with Community Health Network. So that's all we have for this session. If you loved it, give us some thumbs up. I know you love Stephanie, so you got to give her some likes. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Bye. Thank you.
Do you have any questions or topics you'd like us to tackle? Shoot over an email to hello@collabocreative.com.